in other sites, I mean, how high does it go up?
In other sites, depending on size, we change elevation between 50 and 100 feet.
Ron, with limited exposure to landfills, it seems like one of the main concerns people generally have is the type of material that's being brought into the landfill. And I know there are landfills for different types of petroleum chemicals and things like that, and as I understand it, they have to encapsulate those and, for lack of a better word, put a membrane to prevent it from leaching. With what you're doing here, there are no environmental pollutants, contaminants, or anything that could concern anyone with groundwater or anything of that nature?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Charles Butcher, 160 East Ramble Road. And now we're going to add all kinds of trucks coming down that road. It's turning into a beautiful part of the city, and we're going to put a landfill in the city. Now these gentlemen are proposing a landfill in a city. Put a park there. Don't put a dump. We don't need a landfill in the middle of downtown.
What did you find out in the zoning code? Heavy manufacturing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's heavy manufacturing. I just think it's important to consider your alternatives of what other things can be done here. And in looking at this, heavy manufacturing is our most liberal zoning district in terms of allowed uses of any kind of heavy industrial work that's going to be noisy, can be pollutants, I mean, things like that. And you look at something like that could go on this site relative to the limited buffers that they would even require to that. And you look at the land use plan here, to me, as well as the truck traffic. I mean, 45 to 50 cars a day is probably more than there's there now, but to me, you look at the alternative if several industrial companies went over there, and it's going to be a lot larger number than that. I just...
Employee traffic would be extensive.
Absolutely. And just in my way of thinking, with the buffers they've got and the limited land disturbance area, a company that knows what they're doing, I don't think we can presume that they're going to operate illegally, that there are going to be things there. I think our presumption has to be that they're going to operate within the standards that's required by code and by DHEC, and let them do the enforcement.
Hopefully, if the city's going to use them, I would say.
Right, and with the city using, I'm sure it's going to have to be regulated. But my point being that I just, in looking at this, in my opinion, with a heavy manufacturing designation, this is a use that to me would be much less offensive than a lot of other possibilities that could go there.
Is a landfill permitted in heavy manufacturing?
Sanitary landfills is ZBA approval. I don't know if they classify by actual landfill type.
Yeah, I think sanitary is the one that's got trash in it.
I had, and I think most of us on council had the same concerns and about, when you hear about a landfill coming to someone's neighborhood, that's a negative, very negative connotation, and I had the very same feeling. And that's why I wanted to share the trip to Apex, North Carolina, and I did see the facility in operation. And there were no odors there. It was a clean operation. There was, the barrel of some of that construction debris that was taking place there. There were some residents not very close by, but in that area, they were there. And my question was, and still is, how does this affect those neighbors that were living in that immediate vicinity? And we found no negatives there.
You're right, the connotation of landfill is negative, but this is something that's not like garbage landfill. This is just construction, demolition, debris. And I think, unfortunately, because people don't maybe see the difference, it does create more concern.
My name is Mike Gullidge. I live at 228 West Rambo, which is adjacent to where my parents' property adjoins mine, which is adjacent to the site. And I was the only person who showed up for the first meeting. I think Mr. Roddy was there, and another gentleman from the Planning Commission, I believe. And the night that we had the conversation, everything seemed to be agreeable to me because I have lived through the thermal chem fire. I have lived through the rotten cabbage smell of the Clarion. And this seems like a whole lot better use of the property than what we've had in the past. And my family and the families in my little general neighborhood all tell me, they knew I was coming tonight, and they said that without the sludge, we don't have the huge concern.
Hi, my name's Charles Butcher. I live on 160 East Ramble Road. In regards to the other citizens in the area, I personally contacted over 100 citizens. I work 10 hours a day. I don't have much time, but I contacted over 100. I have petitions that we turned into the clerks. I think we're up to somewhere like 150 petitions from the citizens in the area, adjoining the area. They don't come in direct contact, but they're all around the area, and everybody is opposed that I talk to.
George Hampton, Rock Hill School District. I guess we'd like to see this city's ordinance reworked a little bit before y'all, or if y'all pass it, say, with this reworking, where you put no sludge in there.
Yeah, we did that.
And other than that, that's Rock Hill School District story.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I have a couple. Francis, that property is on heavy manufacturing. One of the, in some of the letters I've seen in opposition concerning truck traffic, I guess my question to you is, it would seem like to me something's on heavy manufacturing, 50 trucks a day would probably be, if somebody built a plant or some type of manufacturing facility on this property, the amount of truck traffic seems like it would be comparable. Do you have any experience of
Well,
other heavy manufacturing facilities and what truck traffic?
Mr. Sutton, I think that because of the zoning, we would anticipate a large number of, vehicle trips generated by and those primarily would be trucks or heavy equipment.
But we don't have any kind of general
No, sir.
averages
No,
of
sir.
what?
I don't have any specific information in that.
Okay. One of the other points is brought up, it was in reference to sludge and whether or not there would be sludge at this facility, and I think the answer to that is no. My question would be, is that something that we can get noted on the PUD? I noticed there's a corner on corner of the drawing that has accepted materials. I'm just wondering if we could maybe ease residents' concerns there by placing on that, and I guess the applicant would have to agree, but that there would never be any sludge at this facility. And
Certainly think that's something that council can address and have noted on the master plan.
okay, and I guess they can respond to that when, oh, excuse me. Nick,
Yes, I wasn't meaning to interrupt.
no, Nick's behind you.
Probably add a little something to that is when I heard about the concern about the sludge, the reason that was put in is that we talked early on about the possibility of putting a small amount of treated biosolids or sludge in the mixture with the compost. It was just a means of accelerating the compost process, and all of that would be hauled back out in the form of compost. But I've since talked to the applicant. It's not a big issue with them, nor with us. It's such a small amount anyway, it doesn't really matter to us. And they would be glad to agree to put that in the PUD wording, if you like, that no sludge would go to that site.
Okay, I think that would possibly help. And then just one last question. Francis, it talks, or shown on the drawing, are several buffered areas, 100-foot buffer, 50-foot buffer. And then I see a buffered area here in green, kind of that comes in behind the homes on Rambo Road. It does not say that those are natural buffers, and I don't know what the vegetation is like. Should those be natural buffers, or do we have a lot of tree canopy in there that would help protect the neighbors, or are we building berms, or can somebody answer that?
There will actually be a buffer yard that will be required, a 50-foot buffer yard that's required, a planting along that south property line. But there is a distance requirement that's part of the DHEC requirements, the 1,000 feet from the residence to the the
Yeah,
use of the
I
facility.
understand distance, but if it's all clear cut and I'm looking at the back of a landfill versus if there were trees there
Right.
versus them being clear cut, So are you saying this green area that we see is the planted area on this drawing?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what that is?
That it will be a buffer yard, a
Okay.
landscape yard.
I guess it goes to note number 9, which talks about type E landscaping.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us some of the specifics of that, as far as what might be planned?
That is probably our most intense landscaping requirement, and usually it's where you have the most impact between uses. 50-foot, I don't have that information in front of me as to what the materials would be, but it is our most stringent requirement in terms of buffering and plantings. And I can get that information for you, Mr. Reno. I probably got my...
Okay, we made when, we're fine.
Going back to my original question about a heavy manufacturing zoning district, and it's come up here from one of the speakers, of rezoning that property to residential. I guess, Paul, can you just speak maybe the legality? That's problematic in itself with takings and everything else. I mean, that's just not something that we can easily take somebody's property and make residential. I guess that's one of the reasons why, you know, this applicant's come in with a PUD, which gives us more control over the site. You know, some of the stipulations, if somebody just came in and wanted to build on that site as heavy manufacturing, we'd have a lot, you know, fewer ways to control what's happening there, unlike what we have here. I guess, can you speak to the residential?
Well, maybe I can answer it this way to affect your point as best I can understand it. I believe the PUD zoning gives us the maximum amount of capability to control the use of that property for the benefit of the surrounding neighborhood.